Hello and welcome to Into Dorkness, episode 32. I am Sergio.
I'm Sean.
What's up, guys? How are you? How are you? How are you?
I'm good. I like this new Fireside Chats approach to the opening.
Very FDR.
Yes.
Just like, hey, America, things are cool. Things were fucked, but they're getting cool.
Right. That's why I'm here. I'm here to calm you the fuck down.
That's why I'm next to this fireplace.
Yes.
It's a juxtaposition.
What, do you think I'd be wasting time and money on firewood?
Sitting around?
I mean, I know that sitting is pretty much my default because...
You don't know that.
America
didn't know that.
Well, he let it slip and they had...
Like, wait, what? Nothing. We're going to fight the Nazis.
A day which will live in infamy.
Isn't that so crazy that most of America didn't even know that their president was in a wheelchair? Nowadays, Obama can't even fart without TMZ being like, Obama farted.
Yeah, it's true.
Someone tweeting about it.
Well, maybe America was about to find out. There were rumblings, right?
Right.
That FDR was in a wheelchair, and then they let Pearl Harbor happen to draw attention away from it.
Yeah, wag the dog style.
Yeah. Also, Iraq War style.
Yeah. I mean, they took Wag the Dog, a work of fiction, and turned it into reality.
They mapped it onto a horrific real life.
Kind of like, what's something that was fake that they made real? Like a reality show.
That they made real.
Like a premise. I don't know.
There are those
Beauty and the Geek.
Yeah, there you go.
I guess.
I don't know. I don't watch a lot of reality TV.
We got some Star Trek to discuss. We got 5
choice.
They're choice nugs. 1 or 2 really great episodes.
I'd say this is the most solid run of episodes we've had as a week since that 1 week we had with season 1 of the original series, where it was every single one was really good. That was the week with Space Seed and Devil in the Dark. I
kept talking about Space. We both rewatched Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yes, with the Blu-ray release last week.
Last week. And we watched it separately. We don't do everything together.
No.
Sean and I are pretty much joined at the hip, but there are some things.
Like rewatching.
Rewatching movies, making love to sweet ladies.
Right. We have to do alone.
That's pretty much it. Just those 2.
Yeah, anything else we're pretty much
First run movies, we're there together. Having sex with dudes.
We're having sex with each other.
Pretty much.
So, nobody else does it.
You're not sleeping with any other men, are you?
No. Sleep with lots of other women.
Let me go through your phone.
No.
We'll discuss this later. A matter of perspective. I like this episode a lot. Apparently, it was okay.
It was good. It's a take on Rashomon.
Who doesn't love Akira Kurosawa?
Nobody with a brain and
no
Cine-Easts. I'll tell you that.
So Riker is on Tanagen, the Tanagen space station.
For sure.
He's hanging out with Dr. Apgar. And Riker seems like he just wants to get the fuck out of there, based on how he's
Yeah, whenever he sends the communique over, he's like, "I'm ready to leave now."
And he's about to when the damn spaceship blows up. Boom! Yep. I said spation.
Space station. You saved time. Now you've wasted time by explaining it.
Spation from now on.
Okay.
But where's Riker? He's not on the Enterprise, but thank goodness O'Brien has him.
Yeah.
They find him. And O'Brien's freaked out, oh my god, I can't believe you're here. And he's like, why the fuck wouldn't I be here? And he's like, 'cause of that, man. And he points out the window.
Right.
And Riker's like, I was just there. So a Tanagen official beams aboard, and he wants to arrest Riker for suspicion of murder. And Picard's all slow your roll, homie.
Mm-hmm.
What's the evidence? Apparently they're thinking that Riker blew up the space station intentionally.
Yep.
It's his fault that it blew up.
And killed Dr. Apgar.
They compromise in recreating the events leading to the explosion in the holodeck. And Picard's like, if there's enough evidence there,
based on testimony,
I'll extradite him and you can try him under your jurisdiction. Right. But if the glove don't fit, you must acquit.
Mm-hmm.
Deal, and they agree to that.
I love a good trial episode of Star Trek.
It's been a while.
It's been since Measure of a Man, right?
I think so, yeah.
Which was a choice cut of a courtroom episode.
So we get several different testimonies. Here's Riker's testimony. Riker and LaForge dip in to check on Apgar's progress, simply because they're in the neighborhood. Yes. He's all like, why are you here? He's like, man, we're fucking going over this place, and let's swing by, it's on the way, kind of.
We just wanted to see. We're not here to rush you.
It's no bigs, dude. We just wanted to see what's going on.
Just wanted to say hi.
And Apgar's all defensive, and stuff about his wife, and his wife seems all horned up for Riker.
She breaks into his room. She shows him to his room and then won't leave.
Well, she extends an invitation for them to crash. Like, oh, you guys should just stay here. And he's like, and Riker's like, I don't want to interject. And Apgar's like, I don't know about this. She's like, no, it's no big deal. It's no Biggs, no Jason Biggs. It's fine.
Right.
And yeah, and then she is horned up. Like you said, she like
shows him into this purple chamber of love.
She's like, this is my sanctuary. It's the boneyard. Let's get it straight. It's the boneyard. And she wants to take Riker there. And Apgar walks, and he's all like, dude, this is not cool.
Right. This is like,
normally I'm all down for making a cuckold of a man, but I got
this man.
I got this rash, and I don't know exactly what it is.
Even in the 24th century, right? 24th?
Yeah.
We still haven't cured herpes, so you might want to back off for at least 6 weeks.
At least. What if they don't
come up with a cure for herpes?
Yeah, what if that's just one of those things?
I guess.
Here's the thing. When's the last time a disease was cured?
I don't know.
Like, when's the last time it's like, oh, like...
polio.
Like, this disease? Like, yeah, we found a cure for it.
Well, HPV, there has been cured.
There's a vaccine for it.
Well, you get a vaccine to cure a disease, right? No.
No, you get a vaccine to prevent a disease.
Prevent a disease.
So, all you sluts out there with HPV, no. That's a very serious ailment. For women especially.
Yeah.
But apparently some men are getting throat cancer now, like Michael Douglas.
Yeah, from licking box. So be careful,
from chewing box. Yeah, so if you... And that's such a... What the fuck, man?
Right.
If you're willing to do that, you should be commended, not get a disease.
Right?
I love doing that.
Me
you
too.
know me. You know me, dude. You know me. I love...
Yeah.
Into Dorkness, where a real man knows how to make a woman feel good.
That's right.
That's our motto. It's always been our motto.
It's never not been our motto.
It's like from even before we started this. He was like, I talked to Sean once, 5 years ago, and I said, if we ever, and I mean ever,
do a podcast,
a Star Trek podcast, this needs to be our motto. And
we also came up with mottos for our hockey podcast.
And you stopped eating that woman out. And you
I popped my head up,
wiped your mouth, and said, "Yeah, definitely."
This is before we stopped or started making love to women separately.
Exactly, and then
or did you just break in? I can't remember.
In 7-second rodeo or 8-second rodeo.
What's the 8-second rodeo?
8-second rodeo is where you're making love. You're becoming familiar. You're
getting to know in a biblical sense.
What is it? Not ghosting. What? Ghosting?
Maybe?
From
drifting.
Drifting. You're drifting with the lady. And
ghosting is when you make yourself don't care and never call her back.
That's right. I don't love you. I don't even know what love is. And so you're drifting with a lady or a man, whatever. No bigs. It's the 24th century.
Yeah.
And
or an alien. And
your friend busts in, and presumably your partner will be all freaked out. You know what's up. You know this is coming. So you're like, cool. And your partner freaks out, and you try to just keep on while they're freaking out.
That's what that's called?
Yeah. It's called the 8-second rodeo.
That's not a very nice thing to do.
Well, none of those things are very nice, like a gorilla mask or a strawberry shortcake. None of those are nice things to do.
No, none of those things are nice things to do. That's mean.
No, yeah, all those things are mean.
If you're having sex with somebody...
and you're being mean, you're doing it wrong. I mean...
what if they were mean to you first? Well, you shouldn't have revenge sex.
Well, there's hate sex.
I don't want to tell somebody what kind of sex they can and can't have.
That's not my bag.
Yeah.
I never want to be that guy.
I've never actually had sex with somebody I hated. I mean, at the time that I was having sex with them.
You growed it. I
learned to hate every woman.
You learned to hate every person you made love to. So Apgar walks in, and he's like, I fucking knew it. See, this is what...
8-second rodeo.
This is what happens when Star Trek gets sexy. Like, we get sexy, and...
shit goes off the rails.
He's like, this night was important to me. You hurt my feelings. And smacks his wife.
That's
and
right.
He throws a punch which Riker dodges easily, and he's like, hey, lady, this is how you do it. And he tells
Starfleet. Top of my class.
Boom.
Ambojitsu.
Black belt. He tells Apgar to calm down. Apgar's like, I want to report this. And he's like, whatever. So the next morning, Apgar reiterates that he's going to complain. And Riker's like...
I look forward to it.
Yeah, I'll let my captain know to find it in his inbox, whatever. Like, but it was a misunderstanding, but whatevs. And so then Riker says he dipped out, and that was that. Except that the Tangent official says that what blew up the space station, I'm wasting so much time, was a phaser blast from right where Riker was standing.
An energy discharge.
It's like almost like a phaser blast.
Right. Enough like as makes no difference to him.
And so it doesn't look good. Apgar's wife testimony is as follows. She's all lovey-dovey in the quarters with Apgar.
She won't get off him. She's like, I love.
She's like, you're such a brilliant man. Like, they'll understand if you need more time.
And Riker is a lecherous, like, poon hound.
Seriously, Riker and Geordi shows up, and he immediately eye-fucks the shit out of her. And then tries to rape her. Like, not like...
Yeah, forces them to give him hospitality, and when she's showing him the room, like, forces himself on her.
I mean, I didn't think that this episode would have gone that far. Like, I mean, that was like a full-on attempted rape. Yeah. I just thought he was going to be, like, kind of, like, groping her. Right. Like, very inappropriate, by all means. Like,
but not actual rape attempt.
like, what she was saying, like, if Apgar hadn't shown up, like, Riker would have raped her.
And that's, once that happened, once she came out with that, I was like, okay, well, I don't believe anything she said now.
I know Riker.
Yeah,
I know the kind of man he is. And Riker loves a good lady.
Also, Riker doesn't have to force himself on women who don't want him. I mean, nobody has to, but, you know.
I mean, sometimes... No.
I take that previous statement back. What I mean is that Riker has no trouble getting laid, so...
Absolutely not.
Why would he...
You can go find Brenna and be like, hey, I still like girls.
Look, I know you're allowed to have sex with multiple men, so how'd you like a Riker child?
Boom, round 2.
Round 2. Do you have HPV? Did you get the vaccine?
No. That's weird. Apgar walks in, confronts Riker, who beats the shit out of him.
Yep.
And he's all like, fuck you, dude.
Riker?
Yeah. But the weird thing is that, and Riker's like, that didn't happen, that's bullshit. Like, Troy, like, she's obviously lying, right? And she's like, I don't sense any deception from her.
Which, do they ever really tie that up?
Well, it's a matter of perspective, which still, like...
That perspective's a straight up lie.
Like, well, it's pretty skewed. Like, I could see, like...
Feeling like she was nicer to her husband.
Or, like, if I was, like, you know, somewhere, like, at a
bar mitzvah.
At a bat mitzvah. Or like if I was like at a ball game or something and I see a shoddy, and I start spitting game at her, and I come back and I was like, dude, she was totally drinking the Kool-Aid, that's what's up. But, you know, we just kind of talked, and that's my perspective. Her perspective is like, oh, this guy, like, he, like, obviously, like, was interested in me, but I was just being polite.
Right.
Like, that would be, like...
That makes sense. There's a margin of error.
Exactly. There's a slight margin of error. This is like
well, this is like you still had that conversation, and then she went back to her friends and said, that guy tried to rape me.
And like, what? Call ballpark security. Also, this whole time, there's like this weird radiation thing going on that might be connected to the explosion.
Right. Well, that's Geordi and Wesley, and is Data working on it too? The Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
The three Uber nerds are working their way through because they it's different enough that it bears investigating.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
The energy pulse.
And they're like they've got to. I mean, it's like they come to the assumption it's got to have something to do with the explosion. It can't just be like random and not connected.
So, as a good scientist does, they dig down to dig deep, figure out what it is.
So Apgar's assistant also testifies, and she's like, Apgar told me that he found Riker and his wife smooching, and that he beat the shit out of Riker. And again, I'm like, bullshit. Like, again, like, how the scientist, like, I don't care if you're Jor-El, a scientist should not beat the crap out of, like, a military man, essentially.
Right. In the prime of his days, too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's and bearded as hell.
Like, the most man he's ever going to be, he is right now.
Yeah, that he beat the shit out of Riker, and then who threatened his life. He's like, you're going to pay for this. Like, I forgot. I mean, essentially, like, you know, I'm going to kill you.
Right. You'll regret this. I'll get you and your little dog, too.
Like, what the fuck ever.
Whatever.
And Picard allows them to show this, quote, evidence
which is pure
hearsay
speculation
and conjecture.
Right, conjecture. That's what it is.
And because she wasn't there, like she didn't see it. This is all like she was told this by somebody else.
Right.
He could have been like, "Oh yeah," then the blind black guy like started dancing, and that like that's like kind of racist, and also like I can't be sure that happened
or didn't happen.
I wasn't there. But apparently in their like jurisprudence, like that's allowed. And the tangents, like, there's like, oh, it's cool because it resulted in a murder so that we can allow it. And Picard just like, this is some bullshit.
But whatever, fine. Hit play. Let's just get it over with.
Yeah, regardless, it doesn't look good for Riker. And Picard tells Troy that he's going to allow extradition and that he'll probably be found guilty. But then the Three Musketeers discover the source of the radiation is the thing that Apgar was working on, the Krieger wave converter.
Right.
He said he was working on it, like, but it didn't work. Except that it does. Like he was talking about, like I'm so close to a breakthrough,
right?
But the breakthrough actually came like a few months before,
right? But he wanted to sell it.
Yeah, he wasn't going to make any money giving it to Starfleet,
right? So he wanted
essentially
to sell
Starfleet had already paid for it,
right?
By like being like, hey, work on this for us,
right? Spation. Here's a spation, all for yourself.
Here's your own spation. Work for this, do this, and thank you. And once it's done, we'll take it because we paid for it.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, well, I'll just tell them that it doesn't work, get it to work, and then sell it to the highest bidder, essentially, and weaponize it and give it to the Romulans, the Klingons, the
whoever's going to pay most,
whomever." I still don't know which one to use correctly, whom or who. Do you know off the top of your head with your big English brain?
It's basically if the answer would be him or he. So if it's him, it's whom, I think. For whom is the letter meant? Like, for him.
For whom the bell tolls.
I could be wrong. Like, there was a rule of thumb that I had in college, but it's slipping. It's all slipping. I'm flowers for Algernoning.
the tail end of that.
Yeah.
So, they figured this out. Into Dorkness brought to you by the official 0-calorie soda of Into Dorkness, Coke Zero. Picard lays down some courtroom smackdown and pretty much proved that Apgar was trying to weaponize it. Had already made it, was trying to weaponize it, and then also tried to kill Riker. One, because he thought that Riker was all up in his Kool-Aid, and two,
he thought Starfleet was onto him.
Exactly. Like, that's why he was so paranoid and defensive at first, because he thought like they were in because he was asking for a bunch of like the raw material that he needed.
Right.
And he's like, oh, they're here to find out why he needs so much. And he was going to make it seem like a transporter accident using the Krieger wave. Mm-hmm. But like it bounced off the energy of the transporter beam and then hit the spaceship and blew it up.
Boom.
And that accounted for it was the energy, like the radiation was happening at the same interval every single time, like every 3 hours and 45 minutes and 13 seconds or whatever. Except for that time, it was like just a fraction of a second off, which accounted for it like bouncing off the energy, like the transporter beam.
Right, ricocheting back.
Exactly.
And blowing shit up.
And the official was like, well, I guess you're right. And Riker's like, yes!
So, credits. Now, what's also interesting, going back to the wife's testimony on this one, Nell, I think her name is Nell.
No, yeah.
Name for, I assume the Jodie Foster movie was based on this character, inspired by it in some way.
Yeah, I mean, not like, obviously that isn't the same character, but...
But there's some direct thematic correlation.
You watch this episode, then you watch now, like, oh, I get it.
Like, here's a woman who has trouble communicating. But, if the last thing you did before your spouse died was try to cheat on them, like, I could see how you might be a little grief-crazed. I mean, it's been, like, a day.
I bet Princess Leia had, like, the craziest survivor's guilt.
Yeah, seriously, a whole planet.
Like, a whole planet. Like,
not just a spaceship with your husband on it, but, like, your mom, your dad, as far as you know.
Yeah.
And
all your friends.
All your friends, your record collection.
Probably every dude you've ever banged.
Yeah, let's be honest. You probably haven't had a lot of time for banging since you joined the Senate.
Let's say NASA's like, hey, space travel, essentially like Star Trek or Star Wars.
Okay.
We got that. We got to figure it out. You can start tomorrow. How soon before you bang someone else, and then and also oh, we discovered all these other planets, like all these other aliens, and everything's cool. Essentially, it's like they're like, hey, it's like Star Wars or Star Trek right now, and you can all do it. It's free. Whatever.
Well, am I still married? Or was Earth destroyed in an explosion?
No, let's say you're not married, but okay. How long before you bang an alien?
I mean, it depends, right? Is it a sexy alien? Is it a green girl? Is it an Orion girl?
I don't know. It's up to you.
Okay. Well, it's my choice. Yeah. It's not like something happens to me.
No, it's not like that you put in a pit with an alien that you gotta fuck this thing.
2 private parts enter, 1 private part leaves.
It's like Thunderdome in space. But sex.
I don't know. Probably as soon as I could.
Just as soon as I could.
Well, I mean, it depends on how long it takes to find an attractive alien. You say the first aliens you run into are the Orions?
Great.
But, sign me up.
But that that wolf thing from Allegiance, the Allegiance,
right? Or the salt vampire from the Man Trap.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Although she can look pretty good to start with, but that's the thing. You got to be careful with those aliens.
You got to be careful about the angles.
Yeah.
That's the angles right there, space angles. Yesterday's Enterprise.
Good episode.
This one kicks it up a notch. So, the Enterprise comes
Ron
across...
Moore co-wrote this one. I'm just going to point out Ron Moore. None of the other writers matter.
None of them matter. Who wrote The Offspring? We'll get to that. Enterprise comes across this weird space rift, which Data can't really get a finger on. It's it's like a wormhole, but it isn't.
Right.
It's weird. They get sucked in. Oh no, something gets sucked out.
Right.
And they're like,
what the fuck?
They're like, that's the Enterprise C. So Picard, there's the Enterprise. That's the very first Enterprise from Star Trek, the original series.
Right.
That was destroyed in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock.
Right.
At the end of Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, they get the Enterprise A.
Right.
We see Enterprise B in Generations.
Right, briefly, yeah.
And they're on Enterprise D in the Next Generation. And so this whole time,
right.
Well, Generations hadn't come out. Well, I guess...
Generations doesn't come out for another 3 or 4 years after this. So even up until then, you don't really know what B is.
So, yeah, B or C. Everyone's like, B or C? What about B or C?
Right.
Well, we see C. We see C. It rolls up and they're like, that's weird. And also, everyone on the Enterprise D, Picard
suddenly looks different.
Different uniforms. It's really dark and, the bridge...
More Battlestar Galactica looking.
Yeah. And guess who's there?
Tasha
Yar.
She's back!
A ghost on the bridge! Well, it turns out that the Federation...
And Worf's not there.
Yeah, he's not there. The Federation has been at war with the Klingons for 22 years.
That's why Worf's not there.
And that the undiscovered country that was to come to pass, I guess they never did discover it. I guess. Well,
what happens is that the Enterprise C, their deaths are what caused the Klingons. Since the Enterprise C died heroic deaths defending them, even though they lost the battle, that's what galvanized the Klingons. And since they disappeared. And the battle wasn't won or lost, I guess, that never happened.
Well, the starbase was destroyed regardless,
right.
I guess.
Yeah.
A Klingon starbase was attacked by Romulans, and the Enterprise C was that's I don't care who they are, that's an unprovoked attack, we're going to defend them.
Right.
And they gave their lives defending the starbase, and so the Klingon,
we're inspired.
Empire were hey, you guys aren't half bad.
Right. You died a Klingon death, so we will fight with you.
So honorable.
And so
that's yeah, like you said, that's what that was the precipice for the peace.
Right.
But since the Enterprise C got sucked out,
right.
There was no one to be hey, thanks for fighting for us, even though we all died. That was really cool. They were just you guys didn't help us.
Right.
Screw you. And they went to war. They went to the inevitable war.
Right, the war which Admiral Marcus said was coming in Star Trek Into Darkness. Years ahead of his time, that man.
No one gets it except Guinan,
she's the only one who knows something's different.
She's like Bishop in the Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, she is.
If you get that
she's
reference.
Also like Kitty Pryde in Days of Future Past. If you get that reference.
If you get either reference, let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
But she's like, something's wrong. I don't like. This is just weird. She tells Captain Picard about it, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, I'm just letting you know, like, this isn't right. And he talks it over with his crew, and Data's like, well, perhaps our species has like some kind of like,
exists outside. It has a different understanding of time than we do.
Exactly, like they're like, they don't see time as linear, like, or
right.
they feel it differently. So what's got to happen is that the Enterprise C has to go back. You got to go back.
That's right, Lost style.
They got a season 5 Lost it. Season 4, 5.
Well, end of 3.
Really?
Yeah, that's what happens at the end of 3.
Man, that's blowing minds already.
Yeah.
Sean, we're recording this Monday night, and I apologize for not having the usual discussion threads up for this week's episodes. It's been super biz, but you can talk about all the episodes on when we post this
on the release thread.
On the release thread, which should be up. It should be up Monday night. We're recording this Monday night. It should be up immediately after.
Fingers crossed.
At this point, Sean has not seen last night's
Breaking Bad. I've managed to stay off the internet for the most part. The one time I checked Facebook today, one of my friends fucking blows something or kind of hints at something that, like, if you've got half a brain cell, you know what it means. Don't say a word.
It was so, like, Vince Gilligan was like, this is the best episode of Breaking Bad that we've ever done or will ever do. I mean, there's like 2 left, so I'm guessing he's like, the next 2 won't be as good. And like, I don't see how it's not. Like,
how it could possibly be.
It's so good. It's so amazing.
Would you say this is the climax of the whole story, and that the next 2 episodes are more cleanup?
No, because there's still stuff to figure out.
Still big stuff to figure out. Okay.
Because it doesn't.
Fair enough. I am going to go home, and I would have watched it before I came over here, but my wife wasn't home, and we've been watching it together. So, Becca, I don't know why I keep calling her my wife. It's not like the people who listen to the show don't know who she is.
And she's like, don't say my name on the podcast.
You've been on the podcast. Yeah, don't do that anymore.
No, thank you. No. They've got to go back.
Right. Sorry, go ahead.
The Enterprise C.
Yeah.
And essentially fix the past.
They have to go back and willingly die. They have to go back knowing they're going to die.
And Picard's like not cool with this and brings it up to Captain Garrett.
A lady captain.
A lady captain.
The first lady captain of an Enterprise, actually.
And
only so far.
She's like, you know what? Like, most of my crew wants to go back anyway, partly because they know that it's the right thing to do. Also because they don't like the idea of like sneaking out the back door in the middle of a fight. And they're like, so cool.
Right.
And she's like, I'm down. I'm DTF. Let's do this. Down to fight.
Yeah.
No.
Well, that's the last thing on her mind. But not on Shooter McGowan's.
No, her first officer, Castillo, takes a liking to Tasha. He starts spitting game at her, and she's feeling it. They walk into 10 Forward at one point, and Guinan just like gives her the meanest stink eye ever. And she's like, that's weird.
Doesn't she say, like, you're not supposed to be here or something?
She's like, where am I supposed to be? And she's like, nothing.
Not here.
And she's like, that's weird. I've never seen her, like, that upset before.
Right.
So, Garrett's killed by a Romulan, a Klingon bird of prey attacks the Enterprise D, and Garrett's killed. And so Castillo takes command, and he's like, I'm going to finish the job. I'm more than willing to do it. Let me do it. And
Tasha has a conversation
with Guinan, and she's like, why are you acting so messed up towards me?
And she kind of explains, like, this isn't the way it's supposed to be, and she's like, well, why am I not here in the other timeline? And basically she's like, you died, and she's like, well, how did I die? And she's like, I don't know, but I know it was a death without meaning.
Which is super fucked up.
Right, but from a storytelling standpoint, it's also moving Tasha into a position where she wants a... But, I mean, it's true. The death was pretty pointless. Like, she just gets smacked aside in the middle of a fight. And,
yeah, that is true.
Like, it's
cold-blooded,
it sucks.
Though.
Yeah, she doesn't get to go out heroically. But in this episode, they revised that.
And so Tasha's like, hey, I request the transfer to Enterprise C so I can help him. They're like, Picard's like, what? And she's like, I want to die with some honor, bro.
Right. I'm not going to be here if this works, so...
And Picard's like, all right, homie, go out on her shield.
Something I did want to talk about a little bit, just from an aesthetic standpoint, Starfleet uniforms apparently made a huge jump between 22 years ago and present, because 22 years ago one are still the Starfleet uniforms from the movies, just slightly altered. The neckline is a little different. Mm-hmm. Like, it looks more like they just cut a hole in the top of the uniform instead of, didn't they have collars or something?
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about that. Just that.
Just why not?
Why not?
Well, the plan works. The C gets back, and then the Enterprise D changes back, and Worf is there, and Tasha's still dead, and
It's a really good episode.
Guinan, like, and everyone else is just like, you know, like, oh, did you feel that? No.
Doesn't she call the bridge for like the second time?
And Guinan's like, yeah, and Guinan's like, hey, how's it going? And Picard's like, it's great. And he's like, why? And he's like, oh, no reason. And then she gets to chatting with Geordi, and she's like, hey, tell me more about Tasha.
That's right.
Which I thought was a nice little ending.
Another way of sort of tying back and giving that character more after she's gone. Like, that character means, it's sort of like Barry Allen, right?
Yeah.
That character is so much more interesting because he died. Yeah. You bring him back, the guy has no personality. He's not, but dead, he's amazing, you know? Anyway.
The Offspring.
My favorite band, bro.
My favorite band. My favorite episode this week.
Yeah, this is my favorite too.
So Data goes to this cybernetics conference, and since then he's been in the lab with a pen and a pad, trying to get this damn label off. Some little Dr. Dre for you guys. He calls Troy, Wesley, and Geordi over.
His 3 BFFs.
And he's like, hey, check this out. And he has created an android named Lol. Which looks freaky deaky, like oogie looking.
Looks like an alien that might abduct you and put things up your butt.
Definitely. And Lol apparently is beloved in Hindi.
I liked that.
And so he's like, this is my daughter. Like, calls it her... Well,
his child, because Lol hasn't chosen a gender or a species yet.
And yeah, he's like, you can pick whatever you want to be, like what species, what gender. Right. She decides to be a human female.
Right, well... Yeah, because she's got thousands of choices, and I think they go through them all, and thank God they don't do a montage. Yeah. They just cut to it, and Troy's like, just pick one.
Like, she's like asleep, and she's like, oh, you guys, he's like, we got it down to 4. It's like a human dude.
Lily Tomlin.
Blue Lily Tomlin alien, a human dude, a lady dude, and a Klingon. Right. And Troy was like, oh, a buddy for Worf. Right. And so, like, they do, like, a little montage of... like her kind of like learning things and just kind of doing stuff. She gets a job at 10 Forward to learn about like socialization and stuff like that. And
she kisses Riker for no good reason.
Well, at one point she's like,
she sees a couple of young lovers.
Well, Guinan asks her, she's like, do you know how to make a drink? And she says, like she used the contraction I've instead of I have.
That's right.
Which
Data's like, what the fuck?
And that's a really cool moment where he's like, he feels like a father because he's like, your abilities have surpassed my own.
Right, and it's also interesting, like it doesn't make sense because she's supposed to be an exact copy of him, but somehow she's better. Yeah.
And so, but yeah, like you said, like she sees some lovers and like, what are they doing? And she's like, that's, you know, I love the way Guinan like explain it, like when humans feel affection for each other, they start holding hands, then they kiss, and it goes on from there. Right. And I'm like, it sure fucking does, Guinan. It sure does. And so Riker had been like off, like on leave, doing something, and so this is the first time and the only time you see him in this episode.
Comedy of errors.
He like swaggers in, sees this like new like broad. He's like,
"You're new.
Yeah, I haven't seen you around here." She grabs him, lifts him up because she's an android and super strong,
right?
And like plants the biggest kiss on him, and he's just like, you know, and Guinan's like, "What are you doing? Like, let go of him." And Data walks in, sees it, and says, "Commander Riker, what are your intentions with my daughter?" And Riker's like, "Your daughter?" There's like a cloud-shaped Riker, and like
a Riker-shaped hole through the door.
He's like, "I gotta get out of here."
That was a great moment. Like that was a genuine.
I watched that at work.
So did I.
And I had to pause. I couldn't stop laughing. So funny. I'm
sure everybody else in the break room thought I was crazy.
Meanwhile, Starfleet is like,
Give her
to us. We need to learn from her.
As usual, Starfleet wants to get their hands all over Data and
grubby little hands,
grubby little fingers.
So they have Admiral Haftel come over, and kind of like figure out if they're gonna take her or not. And he's like, "Look, I'll do this, but if I decide that like she belongs to Starfleet, like I'm taking her. Like there's nothing you can do about it."
Picard calls back to Measure of a Man. He's like, "Look, they're free beings. They have rights, which I help define."
And so he shows up, interviews Lal, and she's like, "I don't want to go. I want to stay here with my dad."
Right.
And so Lal goes and visits Troy, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "They're going to try to take me away. I'm afraid." And Troy's like senses like, "Holy shit, you are afraid? What?"
Right.
And
she's pointing at her stomach.
Like she gets confused, and she's like, "I feel it. Like I feel it." And then tries to punch it out, and I'm like, it doesn't work that way. I wish it did. Oh my god,
that would be nice.
I would punch myself in the stomach so many times just to get rid of all this crippling
my
fear.
My teenage years would have been a lot better.
Yeah, be like, oh, like I don't know if that girl likes me.
I'm
fine. I'm fine now.
I don't care. I
punched myself out.
Right.
And then she like wanders off, and she's like
shorts out.
Well, she's like, I need to go back to Data's lab, like my dad's lab. That's what I'm supposed to do in case like I think I'm going to malfunction.
Right.
And she does. She like pretty much shorts out. Meanwhile, the Admiral's talking to Data, and he's like, "I'm decided that we're going to take Lal. But it would be dope. It'd be easier if she thought that this is what you wanted." And he's like, "No, dude, you're asking me like do you have kids?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, then you understand, like, I would never give up my kid. That's fucking stupid. You're stupid." And he's just, no, like, that's, I wouldn't do that.
Eat a dick.
Eat a warm bowl of dicks.
Right.
And then Troy calls him, and he's like, "You need to come to your lab quick. There's a problem." And essentially, like you said, she's fried. Like, it was an emotional overload, pretty much. Like she wasn't
built for feelings.
Yeah, she wasn't built for feelings, and so when she had them, it fried her circuits. And Data tries to fix her, and it's kind of like a surgery almost, like the way they play it out.
Yeah, and the Admiral actually jumps in. He's like, "Can I help?"
And
which is a class move on his part.
Exactly, very classy. Well, I mean, he's probably also
protecting Starfleet's
their best interests.
But it comes off as a warm moment. It doesn't seem
it
cold.
does for sure.
Yeah.
Because he sees Data's concern, obviously. And you got, Troy and Geordi and Wesley, like, chilling out, and the Admiral comes out and just kind of, like, they...
wiping his forehead.
And they kind of give him, like a what's going on look, and he does the, like, it's not good, and, like, it's... He talks about, like,
how amazing Data was.
Like, how quickly his hands move trying to save her life. And he's like, I've never seen anything like it. And I get that. It's a really cool moment when he's like, this may have not been a human being or like a humanoid, but this was a life, and someone cared about it and loved it enough to like do this.
Yeah, he's definitely her father.
And so,
he gets to say goodbye, right?
Yeah, like which that was rough. Like Lal still like can still speak, and he's like, I can't save you. And she's like, it's okay. Like, I love you, Father. Like, thank you for my life.
And he says, I can't feel it back. And she's like, I'll feel it for both of us. And I was like, fuck.
And she, like, shuts down, pretty much. And then Data goes to the crew, and Picard's like, hey, like, we're all very sorry for your loss. And he's like, no, she lives in here, and points to his head. And I'm thinking, like, oh, like the memories. And he's like, no, I downloaded her into my computer. So, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of, I guess it's the Android version. Yeah. I guess it's the Android version
of saving all your photo albums.
Yeah.
But really, yeah, I'd say this is the episode of the week, and a really strong week. Like,
yeah. Because Sins of the Father.
Also awesome.
Very cool.
So if The Offspring hadn't been in this week, this would have been the episode of the
absolutely.
week. Ron Moore.
Who wrote The
Offspring? I had it pulled up. It was not Ron Moore. It was another
Renee Echevarria, although Riker did direct it.
That's right. Was that the first one he directed?
Maybe.
That would explain why he's barely in it, too.
True, yeah.
He's like, I'm not comfortable directing myself except smooching fine ladies.
Yeah, she just kind of wrote for Next Generation, and wait, is this a man or a woman? It's a man.
Oh.
With the name Renee, I thought it might have been a lady.
He must be a Frenchman.
A Frenchman. There's an accent above the second E. So Sins of the Father, the Commander Exchange Program, the Officer Exchange Program is still going strong. And this time the Enterprise gets Klingon, Commander Kern, to come in. He
is awesome.
He is awesome. No, he doesn't have much couth, and he's kind of rubbing everyone the wrong way.
Right. Is he Kimpek? Is that his name? No, it's
Kern.
Kern.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like he's he's insulting like the food and just kind of like flat out like acting like a typical Klingon. I would guess.
Unlike Riker, who worked really hard to understand and live by the Klingon rules, he's not showing.
He's not adapting to the Enterprise.
And they throw him an awesome banquet with caviar.
Yeah, and Picard even's like, it's my favorite dish. The replicator could never do it justice, but I actually made it myself. Right. And he's like, this sucks, donkey dicks. Right. I would rather eat donkey dicks than this. It's actually a delicacy on my planet. On Chorus.
I don't want to talk about it. Actually, I do. Take a seat.
I'm going to tell you all about it. And everyone's like, oh.
I remember this scene. This is one of those scenes, again, that I remember from being a child when they talk about caviar, because it's the first place I ever heard of caviar. I'm like, what the fuck is that? So, Sean Trek memory.
Have you ever had caviar?
I don't think I have.
I don't think I have either.
I don't think I'm interested. It's fish eggs.
It's good.
If it's as good as chicken eggs?
All right, maybe.
Maybe. Somebody write in and let us know.
So Worf is like, dude, stop being such a dick. And Kern's like, I'm your younger brother.
He's
what?
like, whoa.
And he's like, when you guys left to the Khitomer colony, that was like the Khitomer massacre or whatever. That's where the Romulans destroyed.
Is that where the Enterprise C went to die?
I don't know.
Hang on, I'll look that up while you're summarizing.
He was left with a friend of their father. Like he was like chill out with these peeps.
Right.
And
I mean, it'd be about age appropriate, right?
22 years?
Yeah, it's 22 years before.
It had to have been. We're going to look it up right now.
Yeah, okay, let's see.
There's Kenda 2. It doesn't say if that was him or not. I don't know. But anyways,
somebody tell us.
Someone tell us so we don't have to.
We don't have dead air on the show while we read.
But he's like, I was with these friends of the family, and when that happened, they just raised me as their own. Like I didn't know any better. Like I just didn't know.
Yeah, they just didn't tell him.
Until till recently. And he's like, look, our dad is being charged posthumously
with traitordom by the son of his rival. Their dad's name is Mog. Right. So Mog's basically
like his Moriarty.
His Draco Malfoy.
His son, Duras, is like, hey, that motherfucker betrayed everyone. That's what caused the massacre.
Yeah.
Like, he was all about Romulan ways and Romulan women.
Yep.
You talk like Cheech Marin, too, apparently. And so he's like, you gotta come back. You gotta come speak and defend our family's honor.
The right of challenge is yours as the oldest son.
And so Worf is like, I need a leave of absence. Picard's like, we'll help you out. And so they go to the homeworld so they can figure this all out together.
That's a good captain.
And Kern volunteers to be his second in command, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And Worf's like, okay, cool, but don't tell him that you're my brother.
Right.
And so at the High Council.
So this is the first time in original Trek timeline where we see the Klingon homeworld, right?
Yes.
This is Kronos that they're at. It's the first world of the Empire, which I assume would be Kronos. But I don't know. All it says is the Klingon homeworld, so I'm going to assume that's Kronos. Somebody again, write in if I'm wrong.
Please write in.
Or Quonos, depending on how it's being spelled.
How is it being spelled?
Well, it's with a K-R-O-N-O-S.
I saw it. Wasn't it like
Into Darkness, they...
It was a Q.
Was it a Q in Into
Was
Darkness?
Was it not a Q?
I thought it was a K. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
It's Q sometimes, though, right?
Yeah, it is. That's the thing. Is like there's an inconsistency.
The Enterprise C was destroyed defending the Narendra 3.
So no.
That would have been pretty dope, though.
That would have been a nice way to tie it all
Although
together.
at the same time, it's very much like
small universe Star Wars prequel.
Exactly,
kind of
absolutely.
Anakin built C-3PO.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Shooter
McGavin died defending Worf. Plus, the space station was destroyed, right? Which means that Worf would have died.
Yeah. So. I mean, he was supposed to be the only survivor.
Was he the only survivor?
Well, everyone thought he was.
Mm.
And then, we're getting ahead of ourselves. The High Council reveals evidence of Worf's dad sending a defense codes to the Romulans. Worf's like, it's bullshit. But Kempak, the Chancellor, he's like on the hush-hush, he's like, dude, just don't make a big deal about it.
Just leave.
Just go back to the Federation.
And nobody's going to say anything. You weren't supposed to come back here.
And Worf's like, tells us to Picard, and Picard's like, that sounds like some bogus bullshit, bro.
Yo, I got some courtroom experience.
Like, yo, you want to know about courtroom experience? I got mad courtroom experience, yo.
Mostly maritime law and defending android rights, but...
but, you know.
I'm willing to take a crack at Klingon.
So, anyways, Duras calls Kern out. He's like, I know you're fucking Worf's brother, dude. You need to, he tries to, you need to betray him. You need to, take the fall.
Right.
Kern's like, not going to do it and get shanked for his troubles.
He does.
And so, he can't be there to be a second in command.
Yeah.
And so Picard's like, I will be your second.
Yeah.
So anyways, they find out that Worf actually wasn't the first survivor, or the last survivor. There's an old woman. No, there was a woman there who's now an old woman.
Yeah, she used to be a young woman. Sexy young woman.
And
who caught the Chancellor's eye.
And and so she knows what's up. She knows what happened.
But she's been living in hiding.
Yeah, she's like I died, 22 years ago.
Right.
Picard's like, look, dude, this is some bullshit's going on. You know it's bullshit. You need to come with me. And she's like, I guess.
Right.
Fucking I guess.
She actually kills one of a group of Klingons who are attacking Picard in the alley.
Picard dips out of her place
after she refuses.
And he he's jumped.
Yeah.
Basically,
Kern style.
He's able to fight one of them. I'll kill him, but there's like three of them, and they overpower him eventually. And she comes out, and she's like, "Got your back, homie."
That's right. Well, it's this awesome shot where the Klingon falls back, and you see her with her hand extended.
And she's like, "All right, I'll tell the truth." So they go back, and Picard blows the door open. He's like, "It wasn't Worf's dad that Duras claims. It was Duras's dad, and this is a whole fucking malarkey designed to keep his family honor intact while destroying Worf's family honor. This is bullshit."
Yep.
And the Chancellor's like, I know, huh? And Picard's like, what?
Fuck?
And he's like, yeah.
He takes him back into his chambers, right?
No, this is out in the open.
Oh, okay.
I believe.
And later they go back to the chambers.
And he's like, look, dude, if this became aware that Duras' father was a traitor, Duras is so high up in the council.
It would really destabilize our entire government.
It would be fucked, man. It would be fucked. Everything is fucked. And Picard's like, everything is not fucked. Everything is cool. And he's like, no, dude, if you pull this bullshit, our alliance, the Federation, the Klingon alliance, turns to dust. And Picard's like, for a fucking race based on so much on honor, this is dishonorable as fuck, dude.
Yep.
And it's some mad bullshit. Worf, you don't have to take this shit. And Worf's like, no.
I will take this bullshit.
I will take this bullshit. And he accepts a discommendation.
Oh.
Which essentially, he's like...
excommunicated.
Yeah, it's an excommunication. And he's saying, my father did this.
I will accept the punishment of exile. He can never go home.
And... it's just I guess the council surrounds him, they cross their arms and turn their back on him, literally turn their back on him, and it's all done in a circle, and fucking Kern has to do it last, and he has to act like
it's not a big deal.
Yeah, but it totally is, and then him and Picard and Worf leave, and that's the end of the episode.
Right? There's no
like
chat at the end where they sum up the moral. Like, it just ends.
Like, it's like, hey, sometimes terrible shit happens,
and sometimes being a hero means taking on things that the hero pays the price. Essentially, the hero doesn't always get the prize, but he pays the price for it.
This was This was number 7 in Entertainment Weekly's top 10 episodes.
It's a really good fucking episode. And that ending, I got chills just thinking about it.
No, yeah, I thought for sure, I was like, this is super fucked up, and they're leaving, like, and there's gonna be like a, Picard, like, Wolf, like, you'll always have a family with the Enterprise. This is your new home. And he's like, thank you, Captain. And then they kind of like look at the stars, and created by Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah.
He's like, to the blah 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 sector, make it so.
Right. Engage.
Created by Gene Roddenberry. Like, no, they just dip out, and that's it.
Yep.
Haunting, not haunting, but
it's sort of the Dark Knight ending.
A little bit, yeah.
It's like, I can take it.
Can you?
Apparently he couldn't. Yeah, Bruce Wayne's all kinds of fucked up in Dark Knight Rises. But Worf could take it.
Yeah, he's a warrior.
But Worf also had a family. Bruce Wayne had, like, Alfred. So,
That's all you need.
He also shut himself off. Worf, not so much.
How long was he Batman after The Dark Knight?
I think he went into retirement after Dark Knight.
Right after that?
I think that's how you're supposed to read it. Yeah, he's been out of commission for 8 years. So Batman was only around for 6 months. Because there are 6 months between the end of Batman Begins and the beginning of Dark Knight. So basically, I mean, I guess maybe there's a few weeks of Batmaning before that.
Batmaning.
It's a verb. To
Batman. I thought I was I talked about it last week or the week before, how I rewatched Dark Knight Rises, and how I well, at one point I was like, you still see like kids like drawing like little chalk outlines of the bat symbol,
which I thought was cool.
And well, at one point I was like, that's like really like after 8 years, and I thought
these kids wouldn't even be old enough to remember.
Well, even then, but I was like, all right, if some dude like dressed up like a giant bat and like fought crime and then like disappeared, I'm pretty sure like people are still wearing Kurt Cobain t-shirts. Like, I mean, that dude still makes a grip of money. Like, his daughter will never have to work. Not even like on the money that he left her or anything like that. Just based on like royalties and like t-shirt sales.
Yep.
And, that kids that are freshmen in high school right now, like 18-year-olds, were not alive when Kurt Cobain killed himself. You feel old yet?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I always feel old.
Yeah, I felt old since we were too young to feel old.
I was like, I gotta go do this.
Yeah, no. Well, also, I mean, that character, Batman, had such a grip on the public imagination, too. I mean, so,
Our last episode, Allegiance, the weakest, for sure.
It's still fine.
It's still, I mean, there's nothing, like, wrong with it, but after, like, the 1-2 punch of the Offspring and Sins of the Father...
And even
it's a cool-down episode.
Right after, before that.
It's a cool-down episode. In pro wrestling, you always have a cool-down match.
This could have been an original series episode.
Yeah, easily. Very much so. But the cool-down match, it's like you have a great match, and like the fans are so jacked up for it. And
you got to bring them down.
Exactly. You got to cool them off, because otherwise you can't have that like same elevated status like for so long.
Right. Well, it's the same principle in action filmmaking. You have like Terminator 2. The first like half of that movie is this giant build, and then after they get away from the mental hospital, you have a cool down before it starts ramping up again when they decide to break into Cyberdyne.
Yeah, you got Mexico.
Right. Michael Bay doesn't seem to understand that, though. So his movie never has a cool-down period. It's just throwing shit at you for 2.5 hours.
And there's like, you get tired of it after about an hour and a half.
Yeah, even at 15, I remember being in the theater being like, oh, Jesus, I'm getting a headache.
Getting a headache, but yeah.
Old before my time.
Old before 15. So Captain Picard is, sleeping on the Enterprise, and he pretty much disintegrates out, is taken.
Right, a monolith thing floats over him, a 2001 monolith.
Yeah. And he leaves, and like this is picked up by the sensors, and so they rush to his quarters, and you're thinking like, oh, they're gonna find him missing, but no, he's there.
There's a dude in there,
and
a
Picard dude, and he's like, what seems to be the problem? And there's nothing, and so the real Picard ends up in what amounts to a prison, pretty much like a cell,
a single room,
with another Starfleet member, a cadet, Haro, and another guy named Kovar, an alien named Kovar.
Right.
And then they're like, well, how'd you get here? Like, I don't know. How'd you get here? I don't know either. Like, this is crazy. Like, what are we doing here?
Right. There are urinal cakes for food.
Like, I'm not going to eat this. It smells funny.
Right. Pretty sure it's already been peed on.
And then everything's cool up until they run into Isak, who's like this like werewolf like alien.
See, that's the kind of alien I would not have sex with.
Exactly. I was going to bring that up.
But
I did bring it up.
The cadet was cute.
She was alright, yeah, for sure.
She looked kind of like the black and white / white and black characters.
A little bit, yeah.
Was it Let That Be Your Final Battlefield?
Let love be your last battlefield.
Love.
Yeah, let love be your last battlefield, which inspired the song Love is a Battlefield by Joan Jett.
Is that actually the title of the episode?
Joan Jett, Pat Benatar.
One of those ladies.
No, it's called Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. Okay. So anyways, they're trying to figure out, those four are trying to figure out how they got there, why they're there, and how to get out. Problem
the first, Aesop can't eat the food, can't eat the urinal cakes.
No.
And he can only survive about 4 days without food.
Yes, that's true.
And he's a natural predator.
He's like, I'm gonna kill and eat one of you guys.
Right. I don't want to, but I will.
And then also, there's just tension running rampant. Like, people are like, well, why do we have to listen to you, Picard? You've been barking out orders since we got here. Yep. And he's like, look, dude, I just want all of us to be fucking free, all right? Like, I don't care if I'm in charge or not. I just want us all to get out of here.
Right. If you've got better ideas, I'd love to hear them. So, what? Nobody's got shit to say?
All right, then.
I guess I'll be in charge.
Funny how that works out. On the Enterprise, the fake Picard
is on a roll.
He's like trying to bone down with Dr. Crusher, like asking him out to like dinner. They come to my quarters, let's have some dinner.
Right, because he first asked her to dinner, and she's like, "Oh, at 10-4," and he's like, "My place."
I'm like, "Come to my place, baby." And she's like, "All right, this is weird," and they dance and whatever.
Right, he's wearing this open-throated, like showing off his chest hair shirt. Like,
I love it.
It's a good shirt. I gotta get one of those.
I instantly questioned my sexuality at that scene.
Look, I'm just saying, I mean, she's a very lovely woman, but he's the sexier of the two in that scene.
Like, if you're like, you gotta have sex with one of these two people, I'm like, give me that dude.
Yeah, I mean...
No, the bald-headed one. And Guinan's like, yeah!
And then she makes you do an 8-second rodeo with her.
And then she busts out, Picard loves it, though. And he's
That's the difference.
It turns on us.
Turns him on.
He's like, I fucking love being watched. So, and then he's also singing like this, like
he sings a drinking song, like 10-4.
Yeah, he's like, like after he's like, because
he buys beer.
He's like, ales for all,
right?
And
so the whole crew is drunk,
and so he's there. Everyone's like, this is weird, and he's like, after a good toast, he'd often sing a song and start singing "Heart of Oak." Apparently, is what the song he was singing called.
And other people in the ship know it.
It's the official march of the Royal Navy. It's like a.
So maybe Starfleet just picked it up. They're like, hey, this is one of the things we sing at our ceremonies.
Yeah. And so
then what happens?
Well, then at that point, Riker's like, "That's not the captain I know."
Yeah. So he starts a shadow government.
Exactly, like Harry Potter 4,
right.
5, Harry Potter 5,
right? Or season 3 of the League.
One of the two, either one.
Two great epic works.
I didn't like 5 that much. Thought it was a little boring.
The movie?
Yeah.
It's a tough one to turn into a movie because a lot of it's going on internally. So is 6. I think 6 is the worst of the movies.
I don't remember 6. I was drinking way too much and didn't remember it.
It's my least favorite of all of them.
Also, I guess I won't have to rewatch it. I haven't seen the last one.
But you've seen the next to last one? I
saw part 1 of Deathly Hallows.
I love part 1 of Deathly Hallows. That's my favorite.
I love the animated part.
That part was awesome.
So good.
I love the ending, too. It's just like it's like a Holocaust survivor movie. It's like Anne Frank with magic. Because these kids are
I read the Diary of Anne Frank and I'm like, could have used more magic.
That's the one thing it was missing.
That was my review on my high school newspaper.
Could some of the Nazis be werewolves? Rob Zombie tried to answer that question for us.
And to great results.
Great results.
And so everyone's like, no, dude, we're not going to mutiny. He's like, I'm not talking about mutiny. I'm just talking about like trying to figure some shit out, man.
Right, look, nobody's saying mutiny. Who said mutiny? You said it, not me. That's your word, not mine.
And so they find, and back in the cell, like the 4 of them, they find, Picard finds a fake door. and he's like, he pretty much figures out like, Haro, you're not who you say you are, and
that's the cadet.
Yes, right? That's the Starfleet cadet.
Yeah, because they get the door open, and there's just another door beyond it.
Yes.
Also, she didn't get hurt whenever they were being punished, right?
Yep. And so they figure out that they're in some kind of experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Isak, like, is violent and doesn't like authority. Kind of like me when I was a badass teenager.
When you were a cool dog. Free dog.
Exactly. Haro is, I forgot to bring up. We'll talk about it later. Okay. Haro is supposed to obey, orders without question.
Right, because he's basically the French of outer space, like just surrendering and collaborating with everyone.
Thal, Kovar is the one who just kind of goes with the flow, and Picard is the leader, the captain.
Right.
And so these aliens were studying like
how different species react to authority.
Yeah. And so once they're found out, they're like, "Oh shit, okay, cool," and they put them back to where they belong. And then, like, the real Picard shows up at the Enterprise, like, what? And then the fake Picard turns into one of the aliens that was conducting the experiment.
Right.
And they're like, all right, cool, thanks for, being our guinea pigs. And Picard's like, not so fast.
Force field.
And they're like, how did you do that? Well, you didn't say anything. He's like, I didn't have to.
Nonverbal communication.
Dicks. And so, he's like, oh, so how do you like being, imprisoned? He's like, we don't like it at all.
This sucks. We've learned an important lesson.
And he's like, don't do it again, you schmucks, and lets him go. That's how the episode ends.
Well, not quite.
Oh.
Because after that, Dr. Crusher walks onto the bridge, and she hasn't been privy to any of this.
That's right.
And sits down next to him and gives him kind of a sexy look.
Yeah.
And he's like looking at her, he's like, Doctor? And she's like, Captain. And then he kind of turns to Wesley and he's like, engage?
That's right.
So a nice light note to end on after a couple of real heartbreakers.
There's a quote in The Offspring. Whenever the lieutenant or the admiral is like, all right, you're going to give us Law. Like, we're taking her. And Data's like, okay, I'll get her ready. And Picard is like, no, delay that order. And the Admiral's like, what? And he's like, no, Data, do that. And Picard's like, no, Data, I'm your captain. Don't do that. Now, the Admiral like basically threatens his career. He's like, you are skating a thin line here, homie.
Right.
And Picard has a great line that I can't remember right now. I actually wrote it down because it's so good that I thought surely it's like from history. It's like, give me liberty or give me death. Or like, it's better to die on my feet than live on my knees. I thought it was like something from like history or maybe even Shakespeare because, that would be his jam.
Sure, who didn't love Shakespeare?
But the quote is, there are times, sir, when men of good conscience cannot blindly follow orders. What a great line.
Yep.
Right?
It's true. That's how you end up with Nazis, blindly following orders. Sometimes you got to say no, even if it means the end of your career or your life. I've been thinking a lot about that lately. Not because I think I'm going to have to give up my life, but, like, would I actually be willing to? Because, like, I mean, like, what are you willing to actually end your life for? Because, you deal with that a lot this week, in terms of yesterday's Enterprise and then the Offspring.
And even Sins of the Father.
Right. It's like, what?
I mean, like, Worf, there is a threat of execution, but Worf essentially does give up, like, his Klingon life. Like,
right.
What else? Like, he can't go back to, like, he
can't go home.
He can't, he doesn't have any homies.
He probably can't get a Klingon wife unless that half Klingon lady comes back, and it's like, all right, fine, let's say that. I guess I'm done having fun without you.
She does come back, though.
She does, but I don't think they get married.
That's sad. It's like Winnie and Kevin from the Wonder Years.
That's the last episode of Next Generation. It cuts to 20 years in the future, and he's like, I met her at the airport with my wife and kids.
Oh, Worf.
Fucking hell.
I'm so sad your dad died.
That's a
next summer, and your brother took over the furniture store.
That's a dick punch of an ending, Wonder Years.
The Wonder Years, man.
I've never seen...
Join us next week for the Wonder Years Into Dorkness. That's such a good show.
Kevin and Winnie Into Dorkness.
Such a good show.
It is a good show.
Good week of episodes this week. and we're coming in right over an hour. We didn't
lean, mean podcasting machine. Maybe doing it on a Monday night is the way to keep it short.
Just be like, we got shit to do. I don't know.
I mean, I like the Sunday afternoon format myself.
It's good. It's good for many reasons.
Not least of which being it's not a working day, so I'm not tired from having worked.
I'm so tired. I'm not tired.
I'm not tired either. I had like 4 Cokes.
I had a busy week.
Yeah?
Sure. Next,
join us next week.
Next week we'll be discussing Captain's Holiday. And again, another 5 episodes. Captain's Holiday, Tin Man, which I
wonder who that's about.
I've figured out that I say, I guess because of where I was born and where I was raised, my accent, I say 10 instead of 10.
Oh, like
8, 9, 10.
Do I say it weird? 10.
Well, now you
10.
know what you're trying to say.
9, 10.
10?
10.
Like I say it like T-I-N.
Am I saying it like that?
I say pen, though. Like
Pen.
Like, you know, like do you have something to write with, a pen or something?
I probably say it wrong. P-I-N.
Pan. Captain's Holiday, Tin Man, Hollow Pursuits, The Most Toys, and Serac. Spock's daddy.
The ball sack that Spock swam out of because it was the most logical option.
I'm going to exit through the urethra. Thanks for listening. Facebook.com/Into Dorkness, LLAP.
KO.
This has been an Into Dorkness production.
The thing was, I had to get in that happy zone because you go too far, then I can't sit still.